delay. You know, Nigerian network can be very uh, stressful at times. If you remember, during our class, we introduced ourselves to the concept of psychology and were able to examine certain scope of the field. We equally went further to examine some of the branches of the field of psychology and were able to posit that some of these issues were as a result of the fact that the field of psychology is very complex, the same way the field of sociology is complex. Hence the need for the field to be splitted into branches. We said during the week that psychology is the scientific study of the behavior and the mind. Unlike the general field of sociology that involves the scientific study of human behavior and society at large, psychology focuses on human mind, and some of its areas of scope includes behavior of human and non-humans. Psychologists do not study only human being; they also study animals, both the conscious and the unconscious state of human being, or let me say unconscious phenomena. And the field of psychology examined mental processes, because we've said it several times that psychology is a scientific study of the mind and mental processes. So the mind itself is complex. It is complex because we have mental processes such as thoughts, feelings, motives, and it's very difficult to understand people's thoughts, to understand people's feeling, to even understand people's behavior, because some of these things are shaped by certain social circumstances. So it is not that easy to understand. Class, please, if you can hear me clearly, please, I would like you to signify, please, to indicate that you hear me clearly, because I know the network can be very bad at times. So psychology as a discipline is dedicated to the study of mental processes and behavior that can be found in human and non-human at every point in time. So let me just say that it is the science of the mind. You can say that psychology, I mean, is the science of the mind, because what psychologists do is just to explore your thoughts, your feelings, and how some of your actions are shaped by certain underlying mental processes. However, there are there is what we call scope of the field of psychology. As you can refer to it as subject matter. So the subject matter and level of analysis of psychology includes mental processes. Under mental processes, you have thoughts, memories, emotions, motivations, perceptions, sensations, and some other things. We equally have behavior as one of the scope of the field of psychology. Under behavior, you have things like observable actions, speech, how you talk, how you relate with others. And do not forget that interaction is one of the fundamental subject matter of the field of sociology, which psychology is one of the various branches of the field of sociology. So, if you look at the level of analysis in psychology, you have biological. Let me just say, when we get to the branches of psychology, I'm definitely going to explore that. Then you need to understand that the field of psychology is very complex. It is complex, like we've said, because the human mind is also not easy or that simple to understand, because as a part of interdisciplinary field, Psychologists are involved in the issues as regards to perception, cognition, attention, emotion, intelligence, subjective experiences, and some, or even brain functioning. Psychologists, you know, yeah. Chidera asks, I said psychology is the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes, what happens within the mind, within the brain, intelligence, attention, emotion, cognition, and some other issues. You know, while psychological knowledge is most times often applied to the assessment and treatment of mental health problems, you also need to understand that in most situations, it is also directed towards understanding and solving problems in several spheres of human activity. We have seen situations where psychologists came in to, solve a whole lot of issue as far as the society is concerned. So, in a nutshell, in a nutshell, psychology is a scientific study of human behavior and the mind generally. So we mentioned the scope, and I've said that among the scope we have mental processes. In fact, let me just say the general scope of the field of psychology is mental processes. But under mental processes, that is where you have thoughts, memories, emotions, motivations, perceptions, sensations, and some other things. The subject matter also includes human behavior. You must be able to understand human behavior in a sense that you have adequate information to get convinced that, look, okay, this is convincing enough to be accepted as one of the. So, the scope also includes biology. Under here we have stuff like neuroscience, brain functions, hormones. Then we also have cognitive. Here we have issues like information. Yeah, let me just say information processing, attention and memory. We also have emotion, like I've mentioned earlier on. Under emotion, you have affective feelings, mood regulations, and some other stuffs. Then under social as a scope, you have group dynamics, culture, norms. Then behavioral scope, we have learning, conditioning, behavioral patterns, and some other. But the core domain of psychology is more or less basic science, because here we have biological psychology, and biological psychology really is very important under the scope of psychology, because like I said, it has to do with stuff like neuroscience, brain functioning, hormones, and some other. Please, class, if you can hear me clearly, I would like you to signify, please, because it's like the network is a bit please, if you can hear me, I would like you to signify, please. Class, please, if you can hear me clearly, I would like you to indicate, please. Okay. Then yeah, the network is poor. I can understand the network is very poor. but I don't know if you hear me clearly. Okay, fine. So I was talking about the branches of psychology, and one of the various branches of psychology is behavioral psychology. Um, in some textbooks, you may see it as behaviorism. It is one of the theories of learning based on the ideas that all behaviors are acquired through conditioning. So, behavioral strategies such as conditioning, uh, conditioning and operant conditioning are often, in most situations, utilized to teach or modify the behavior. We also have what we call clinical psychology. Clinical psychology is one of the branches of psychology concerned with assessing or the assessment and treatment of mental illnesses, abnormal behavior. Those are the kind of people you see in psychiatric hospitals. You know, they are clinical psychologists. They treat abnormal behavior and possibly psychiatric disorders. You can mostly find them in hospital settings where they perform different functions. They work there, or let me say, in other mental clinics. So in some of these organizations, they work as part of the collaborative team that may include physicians, psychiatrists, and other mental health professionals. We equally have cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology is one of the areas of psychology that focuses on internal mental states. You get when when somebody is having an internal mental state. So, but this particular field over the years has continued to grow. You know, it's emerged in the 1960s, and is centered on the science of how people think, learn, and possibly remember some things. So we also have counseling psychology. In fact, this is one of the largest areas of the field of psychology. Counseling psychologist is one of the largest areas of psychology. It is centered on treating clinical, what do we call it? Uh, I can't remember, but what I can remember very well is that it focuses on treating, let me say, clients or patients with mental distress who may be experiencing a wide or variety of psychological symptoms. You know, at times you see people look so normal, but then they are internally abnormal. So it's not everybody you see on the road wearing clothes that is normal. Well, in fact, there are situations where you even have to question why people behave the way they do, because their attitude sounds very abnormal. It sounds antisocial, and you begin to ask whether such people deserve to actually be a member of the society or not. Then we equally have developmental psychology. This actually focuses on how people can change throughout their lifestyle, their lifetime. This area of psychology seeks to understand and at the same time explain how and why people change. Most of these psychologists study physical growth, like your improvement from infancy to adulthood, your intellectual development, I mean your intellectual capabilities, and at the same time, your emotional changes, your social growth, and perceptual changes that occur throughout your lifespan. So, some of them, in some situations, yeah, Nasiru Muhammad said we can define cognitive psychology as the studies of thinking, memories. Yeah, yeah, you are right. You're right. You're very correct. You're correct. So we equally have what we call educational psychology. This is the branch of psychology that is concerned with schools, educational issues, and student concerns. In most schools, or let me just say in advanced countries of the world, you see schools having psychologists as one of their core workers in the school because they study how students learn, how they work. They generally work directly with students, parents, teachers, and administrators to improve student outcomes in their lives. Then we have experimental psychology. This is a branch of psychology that utilizes scientific methods to research the brain and behavior. Many of these techniques are also used in other psychological areas to study everything from childhood development to social issues. Experimental psychologists mostly work in wide variety of settings, including colleges, universities, research centers, government, and then we have forensic psychology. Forensic psychology because this branch is related This branch is related to psychology and law because those who work in this branch of uh, psychology apply psychological principles to legal issues. This involves studying, let's say, criminal behavior and treatment, or working directly in the court system. So then we equally have industrial or organizational psychology. In some textbooks, you can even see up to about 50 branches of psychology. So what are the other branches under biological studies, thinking, memories? Please, those who are online, you can start dropping your registration number as attendance, please. We'll be doing that in about 5 minutes. Any place in about 5 minutes, start dropping. Okay, I understand you guys do not have registration number yet, so don't worry. We will find a way of marking the attendance. I can see we have about 73 students online. I think that's quite impressive, but we can do better. So, industrial and or organizational psychology. This simply applies to psychological principles that occurs at workplace. This area, in most situations, seeks to improve productivity, employees' performance, impact of motivation on employees' performance, impact of teamwork on employee performance, impact of stress management on employee performance, impact of time management on employee performance. So it focuses on all the things that occurs within an organization. Then we also have social psychology. Social psychology is a branch of psychology that seeks to understand or explain social behavior. It looks at diverse topics which include behavior, social interaction, and some other things. Social psychology is the branch of psychology that studies the influence of group on individuals' behavior. This implies that, you know, over the years, our parents often say, "Show me your friend, and I'll definitely tell you whom you are." This definitely implies or means that the presence of other people around you is definitely going to shape your life, is definitely going to shape your interaction processes, is definitely going to change you from whom you are presently to what you may likely become in the future. Therefore, when you move with people, you move with people of value. When you move with people, you move with people who add value to your life. In fact, this branch of psychology is very daily lives. Because, for example, you guys are in year one. Some of you have started to change from what you used to be from your various parents' houses to something we may not understand. Some will change from bad to good, while some will change from good to bad. Influence because of the environment, social factors, and the people that you interact with on a daily basis. So it looks at social interaction, perception, leadership, non-verbal communication, and social influences on decision making. Some of you have taken certain decisions today that are against your wish, but the decisions were taken on the basis of your friends have convinced you to do. Lastly, we have sports psychologists. This is how psychology influences sports, athletic performance, exercise, physical activities, and some of these individuals work with who are sports psychologists work to improve players' focus, development of their mental toughness, increase their motivation, and to reduce possibly stress related activities that are related. Please, class, we will be stopping here. If you have any question, please you can drop them, attend to the questions while I go offline because the network is just too poor. I'm so sorry about that. Please ask your questions in the next 4 5 minutes. Then I move. Waiting for your questions, please. Class questions. What is the difference between clinical? Sir, please, the definition of psychology. I said those people work in industries, organizations. They are the people who work on the site workers so that they can have higher product, good employee performance. Teamwork can be used to achieve organizational growth, impact of motivation on workers. Motivation generally involves uh, factors that energizes our behavior. For example, I fixed an online class. Something motivated you to come online. Maybe you want to learn, and that pushed you to come in online. So there is always a factor. There is always a rationale that energizes our behavior. There is something that pushes us to do what we want to do. We have two types of motivation. We have intrinsic and we have extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation is the one that is geared towards internal factors, while extrinsic is the one that is geared towards external external factors. So, class, I wouldn't know. Please, in the absence of, because my network is a bit poor, I would like